Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I find out, is our world about to break apart? And if so, how do you heal a lonely heart? And I come to you live from Crater Valley on the moon with Dog, Cat, Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Turbulent Thursday. Yes, the wonderful world of work is keeping me on my toes day in and day out. Yay! But hey, as long as I am employed, right? That's good. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Thursday evening. At least I hope it's beautiful where you are, in some way, shape, or form. Find beauty even in things that might seem dark and sad. There's beauty in sadness. Sadness like, postulating on the breakup of the United States of America. Yeah, I'll get into that in a minute. But before I get there, who's joining me this evening on this beautiful Thursday evening? Let's see who we got here. Noah Asensio, hello. Mike R, hello. Lil Meow, hello. Chicago Mike, hello. Grand Inquisitor Tier Alexander. Oh, you gave yourself a promotion? All right, then. Funtime Bats, hello. Who else is here? Cheever Dam, hello. And going on. Tony Giff, hello. Shell D, hello. Spoonie the Rebel, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. And then who else is here? Oh, Derek LaRue. Thank you so much, Derek, as always, for your perpetual support and generosity. I really, really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Thursday. Hope you enjoy the show. Who else is here? Keldrig, hello. Nathan Willie, hello. England DG, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Twisted Skipster, hello. Versace Aramura, hello. Who else is here? Alice Morgan, hello. Super Koopa TV, hello. Angelverse, hello. Drunken Uncle. What? Is there a drunken uncle in the house? Oh my God.
Wow-wee! Wow! Wow!
That's what Dog, Cat, Fox has to say to that. Well, welcome, drunken uncle. Long time no talk. Hope you're doing well. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing, but that's fine because it's Attack Alpaca. We like Attack Alpaca, don't we? Robert Pincus, hello. Jack Frost, hello. Let's see. Urkele Di Stefano, hello. And who else am I seeing here? Did I already say hello to Roger Reynolds? Well, Roger Reynolds, hello. No Name, hello. Sam Squanch, hello. Thad the Fourth One, hello. And some Namyon Nation, hello. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, hello. All right. So tonight, because tonight is the night when one becomes two. I have heard this question and or claim, I think I alluded to this in the tweet that advertised the stream. I think every year, at least once a year, at the minimum, since the early 90s, in AM talk radio and Rush Limbaugh and who knows who else, that America is headed towards another civil war. And I've heard this claim from both sides of the aisle for different reasons at different times. So amazingly, there is a TED Talk. Yes, this is a TED Talk, not a TEDx. This is cream of the crop, top of the heap, a number one TED Talk on the subject. And it jumped out to me because, well, I've heard this recently or seen it on Twitter and stuff. Are we headed towards another civil war? We're headed towards another civil war. And so my first question is, as it always is with these things, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by civil war. Are you actually talking about a division of states, secession, two countries fighting each other within one United States, that kind of thing? And my first response to that, I'm just setting a baseline before we get into our speaker's spiel on this. My baseline reaction to that is no, for a few reasons. But in general terms, first, the laws and the mechanisms that have been implemented and developed since our last Civil War, and the fact that at this point in time, as compared to the 1860s, each one of our states, both politically and infrastructurally, and for so many other reasons, are so intertwined that the idea of trying to operate independently from the whole, as it were, would probably be a non-starter. For example, it has been threatened by several movements over many, many years that Texas should secede from the Union. And there have been attempts to make this happen. And I got to think, well, okay, let's imagine for a second that Texas did secede from the Union. Well, they would need their own standing army. They would have to renegotiate border situations with a bunch of other states surrounding it. There would be no collective support from the rest of America to protect it should Mexico decide to invade. Pell Grants, infrastructure, water, just tons and tons of different things. Suddenly, Texas would have to take care of on its own. Can any individual state or even a small collection of states do that today, in the modern day, in the current year? I doubt it. But then again, as I say, I don't know what our speaker's definition of civil war is or what the argument will be. And so while classically I dismiss these claims or these paranoias as simply that conspiratorial paranoia, I also understand that the purpose of this show, in part, is to confront weird ideas or things that I might otherwise dismiss out of hand in order to understand what the argument is. And so that's why we're here tonight, to take a look at a question that hopefully will be answered, or at least an answer will be given. Is the U.S. headed towards another civil war? Before I get there, thank you, Sad Kitty. Just saying hi. Finally caught a live show. Yay. Ha. Thank you, Sad Kitty. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the live show and that you enjoy it better than Memorex. And if you get that joke, you're a fossil just like me. All right. Well, a couple more hellos and we'll get into it. Angela Ariaga, Woodcutter. Who else is here? Did I miss Ost Sand? Did I say hello? I hope I did. And Megan Ring. Hope I did. Jose Chacon. Just Paul. And before I forget, at the top of the chat box, if you'll direct your attention there briefly, there are fundraisers there for our friends Maddie, Lisa, Angry Illinoisian, and Moonshock. And each of them in their own ways have experienced either a cancer diagnosis or recovering from cancer or physical injury or just need some help keeping the lights on. If you guys can take a look at those, if you can donate, excellent. If you can't, if you could share those out on social media, that would be appreciated as well. All right, with all that being said, tonight's bingo card is card A. A as in, what did I say? Oh, the Cola Wars. On tonight's poll on Twitter, I asked, what was your selected Civil War? I put up the Cola Wars, Bad Boy versus Death Row, and Captain America Civil War. And the Cola Wars won. So card A, links are in the description. Have your bingo cards ready. This one clocks in at just under 13 minutes. So let's begin. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. Actually, the opening is silent because I took out the little TED musical cue just on the off chance that's like copyrighted or something. And as soon as the speaker starts talking, we'll proceed.
I'm going to talk about a threat that most people don't want to think about.
Is it colitis? Or perhaps shingles? Most people don't talk about shingles. I'll tell you, boy howdy, shingles are no fun. I had them when I was like 21. Oh, it's terrible. Sounds good, says Derek LaRue. Hear it, says Advocatus Diaboli. All right. What is that threat we don't talk about?
It's too frightening, and it doesn't seem real.
Okay.
That threat is civil war.
Okay.
Since 1946.
Wait, this was done at Vancouver, BC? So you're in Canada. Wait, are we talking about Canadian Civil War? Okay, now that's a whole other subject. Canadians in the chat, are you headed towards a civil war? Because I know Quebec would love to be its own country. So is that where we're going?
Over 250 civil wars have broken out, and that number continues to increase. There are now almost 50% more civil wars than there were in 2001.
I assume you mean worldwide, and I could believe it. There are a lot of countries in this world that are unstable.
I've been studying civil wars for over 30 years. I've interviewed members of Hamas in the West Bank, ex-Sinn Féin members in Northern Ireland, former members of the FARC in Colombia. I've stood on top of...
Wait, how did she pronounce the... In Ireland? Wait a second. I always understood. Did I hear that correctly?
Members of Hamas in the West Bank, ex-Sinn Féin members in Northern Ireland.
Ex-Sinn? Is I thought it was like a Sinn Féin, or obviously maybe I'm just a Yankee ignorant. I don't know. That just sounded odd to me.
Former members of the FARC in Colombia. I've stood on top of the Golan Heights and stared into Syria at the top of the Syrian civil war. I've driven across Zimbabwe as the military was planning its coup against Robert Mugabe. I've been followed and interrogated by members of Myanmar's junta.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, whether brave or foolish, you've put yourself in a lot of dangerous situations with dangerous people. All right. So I will, for the sake of this talk, stipulate that you are an expert, at least observationally, of many civil wars.
In 2017, I was asked to serve on a task force run by the CIA called the Political Instability Task Force.
That sounds like so much fun.
One of the goals of that task force was to come up with a model to help the US government predict what countries around the world were likely to experience ethnic conflict and civil war.
And let me guess, the United States checked off all the boxes.
It turns out that predicting civil war is possible. Solid data exists on where and when these conflicts are likely to break out. It's just that most people don't know that.
Okay, so what is the next civil war and where is it going to break out?
The task force was comprised of two types of people, experts on civil war like myself and data analysts.
What, there was no consideration for race or gender or orientation? You were focused on skill set and ability? What madness is this?
The experts came up with 38 different factors that they thought could potentially lead a country towards civil war. And some of those factors seemed obvious, like whether a country was poor, had lots of income inequality, or had a government that heavily discriminated against one particular group.
You mean demographic? I mean, I guess it could be group, but when I hear group these days, my brain just goes like, you mean demographic?
It turns out that only two factors were highly predictive, and they weren't the ones the experts expected.
Okay.
The first was whether a country was an anocracy.
Okay, first off, we have a list, because one of two is still a list, so circling a list on the bingo card. Let's get that out of the way. Also circling free space, because, well, free is the best price. All right, let's go over the bingo card one time and remind ourselves what we're listening for. Remember, this bingo card A is an apple for ease of use, and links in the description. Collectivizes own demographic, systemic or institutional, you might get there. Sales pitch for product or service, unless she's selling her consultation services, I suppose. Childhood or family anecdote, diversity, equity, and or inclusion, plays victim, microaggressions or unconscious bias, privilege, contradicts own point or argument, patriarchy, weightless example, wage gap, which is also the square that's kind of on the potential chopping block from the card, but I'll talk about that later. Feminism, marginalized or marginalization, white supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, microaggressions and mind reading or assumes motives. Sorry, the text on this thing. Microsoft, like unbeknownst to me, like updated the Paint program. I know I'm using really high-tech equipment here. And now when I try to minimize it down to a size that isn't obstructing a bunch of things, it's suddenly very, very small as compared to where it was before. Can I adjust that manually? Hold on. Apparently I can. Let me try this. There we go. Oh, man. Old dog learning new tricks. What can I tell you? Anyway, okay. Mind reading assumes motives, benevolent condescension, anecdote that probably never happened, and lastly, leaves out vital context. So far on the board, we have free space and a list. And the first item again, let's back up and remind ourselves.
The first was whether a country was an anocracy. Anocracy is just a fancy term for partial democracy. It's a government that's neither fully democratic nor fully autocratic. It's something in between.
Okay. And what kind of government do we have?
So think about Hungary today.
Hungary today? I'm hungry every day. No. Okay.
Hungary holds elections. Hungarians eagerly go out and vote. It's just that whoever wins those elections can basically do whatever they want.
I suppose. I don't know much about the political structure of Hungary. Okay.
The second factor was whether citizens in these anocracies had formed political parties around identity rather than ideology.
Okay. Well, let's see. Obviously, the spoiler is already given away. So America is not quite a democracy. It's a little bit of a democracy. Well, except for the fact that it's a representative republic. But other than that, yeah, okay, it's a little democracy. I guess that's being like a little pregnant. And then are the parties formed around identity? I don't know. Haven't they always been? So the elements that mean America is headed towards a civil war are elements that have always been true. Okay.
So rather than joining a party because you were liberal or conservative, capitalist or communist, you joined a party because you were Black or white, Christian or Muslim, Serb or Croat.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, when you're looking for a voting bloc, who do you pander to? Yeah, okay. And this is different from years past. How?
If a country had these two features, the task force considered it at high risk of political violence and put it on a watch list.
Wait, political violence? Okay, political violence is a far stretch to civil war.
It was actually called the watch list, and it was sent to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
So here I was sitting in a hotel conference room in suburban Virginia 4 times a year with a room full of really smart people. And we talked about countries in Africa, the Middle East, Central Asia. But we never, ever talked about the United States.
The first rule of the United States, don't talk about the United States.
That's because the CIA is legally not allowed to monitor the United States or its citizens, and that's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh yeah. Yeah. They're legally not allowed, but obviously the CIA has always abided. Yes. Yes. You're right. You're right. That's how it should be. And it's true. They are not legally allowed to. But Prism, anyone?
But I was a private citizen, and I had this information. And I could see that both of these factors were emerging in my own country, and they were emerging at a surprisingly fast rate.
Emerging in this country, that this country is not a straight, flat democracy, and that political parties are based around, in some part or other, identity versus ideology. Okay. I should predicate everything that I say after this with the fact that I am not a political science major. I am an English major. I am a layman on just about everything else, unless it's old school Marvel comic books and Vampire the Masquerade. Outside of that, I don't know nothing about nothing. But what in the two elements she's described have been untrue about America at any point in, let's just say for the sake of in my lifetime, okay, in the last 44 years, have we not been operating under the same kind of government structurally that we always have been? And have not the political parties promoted themselves as an identity with the veneer of an ideology oftentimes? Okay, so we have, if those are the only two elements we have to be aware of, then we've been on the precipice of civil war for a really long time. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk, for the happy, smiley Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat.
Wow. Wow, wow.
That is a Sinatra Dogcat Fox. Might as well try to cover the AAA team here as much as I can. I don't have a polydub Dogcat Fox. I need to get a polydub Dogcat Fox. I'll have to hit him up sometime so I can get the trifecta and cover it. By the way, just because I didn't mention before, if you don't know about the AAA stream, be sure to check out Sinatra Says' channel. I believe, don't you guys rotate on different days of the week, Drunkle? I believe you do so. But either way, look up Drunken Uncle on YouTube. Look up Sinatra Says, or is it Sinatra Screams now on YouTube? And look up Polydub, and you will find links there too, or otherwise, to the AAA stream, which they do, was it 3 times a week? Yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I believe. Around about, I want to say 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. I could be mistaken. The Silent Sin, that's what it is. Yeah, Sinatra's had to play some musical chairs with his channels in recent years. And so The Silent Sin is what you want to look up for Sinatra's channel. So, Derek says he'll grab the links. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate it. You can pop those in there. It'd be great. All right. Anyway, sorry. Again, you were saying that America's on the cusp of what's now?
The U.S.'s democracy has been downgraded 3 times since 2016.
Oh, golly. I wonder what force of nature caused somebody to assess things in that fashion. Is it because we had a democratic small d democratic election that resulted in that ended up in a result that a lot of people did not enjoy?
2016, it was downgraded because international election monitors had considered the 2016 election free, but not entirely fair.
Oh, wait a second. I was told that questioning the validity of an election was a wrong thing. These days, now it's a bad thing.
America's own intelligence agencies had found that the Russians had, in fact, meddled in that election.
They meddled? Like a Scooby-Doo villain? Oh my gosh, how? How many votes were turned over as a result of that? And just because I'm not exactly some kind of starry-eyed idiot about my own country, how many elections have we, the United States, and its intelligence services meddled in globally, historically? I have waited all these years for some metrics on exactly how many votes the Russians turned over. I really want to know. I've wanted to know since 2016.
It was downgraded again in 2019 when the White House refused to comply with requests by Congress for information.
Oh, and that's never happened before, you say? I seem to remember a couple of presidencies that I was alive for where similar things happened. And somehow we're still here. I don't see brother fighting brother. State versus state. Okay. I mean, if you say so.
And it was downgraded a final time at the end of 2020 when President Trump refused to accept his loss in the 2020 election and actively attempted to overturn the results.
Oh my gosh, he actively attempted to overturn? Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, he is being legalized into oblivion right now on those questions. So I guess on a law basis, we'll find out how much there is to that in the near future, one way or another. But okay, so all because of one man put the entire future of the country under 3 extra levels of threat. Got it.
Between December of 2020 and early 2021.
That's just before somebody. So everything kind of stopped around early 20. What happened in early 2021? I wonder.
The United States was officially classified as an anocracy.
Oh my gosh, officially classified as an anocracy by outside forces and stuff. Now, thank you, Flair Fritz. Scribe, you're forgetting that human history only started in 2016. Yes, this is the Satsu rule. For those of you that don't know, this is the the Satsu Doctrine, I should say. The Satsu Doctrine says history started in 2016. Nothing of note occurred before then. Everything bad started then, and we were living in abject paradise every single year prior to 2016. Only then did the world fall apart. Only then was there any kind of political malfeasance or question. Only then did we go off track. But now, of course, we're back on track. We are solidly on the rails once again as of 2021, right? I mean, we're better off now, right? I mean, that Donald Trump is no longer in the White House. Everything's peachy. And of course, everything was peachy before Donald Trump. There's just one anomaly of our history. But we're on the road to recovery, right? What was that look? Well, what was that? Hold on. I apologize for those of you that are listening to this as a podcast on the road or something, but our speaker, I need context again. What was that look for?
The United States was officially classified as an anocracy.
Why does that make you smile? Why does that make you smile? Is that like a nervous tick or something? Like I hate to deliver the bad news, so I can't help but sort of like try to lessen the blow with a big grin on my face. But I just told the audience that one of the two elements that is going to send the United States on the road to destruction is now in place. And I get a big grin on my face. Golly, I don't know. If our speaker was a doctor, the bedside manner would decidedly be ill-advised.
If the task force had been allowed to monitor and study the United States.
Which it wasn't, so it didn't. So you're guessing?
It likely would have.
Whoa. Whoa. Wait a second. Let's back up. We have if and likely. Okay.
If the task force had been allowed to monitor and study the United States, it likely would have considered it at high risk of political instability and political violence in December of 2020, just a few weeks before the January 6th insurrection, and it likely would have put the United States on the watch list.
Oh my gosh. So you guys, you knew ahead of time that January 6th was coming. You knew. Well, I mean, are you going to testify at any of the trials? Did you publish a paper? Did you alert anybody about this? I mean, is that it? And of course, nothing that could be considered political unrest took place before January 6th. No. There was nothing that could be considered a politically motivated violent action undertaken in the United States in multiple cities in, say, the summer of 2020, perhaps. Nothing. But no. Only then was something that was politically motivated violence occurred. Only then. All right. Well, I mean, I'll just tell Portland, Minneapolis, Seattle. What you guys had was just little hiccups. Nothing. It was just it was just kids being kids. That's all those were.
We also know who tends to start civil wars. And again, it's not the people most of us think.
Yeah, it's Iron Man and Captain America.
It is not the poorest people in society. It is not the people who are most oppressed by their government.
I thought you said that the factors for potential civil war were, okay.
The people who tend to start civil wars, especially ethnically based civil wars.
Ethnically based civil wars. Okay.
Are the groups that had once been politically dominant but are in decline.
Oh, are you talking about all the white people? Yeah, because the white people in this country are so unified. Man, oh man, can I tell you something about all the white people in California versus all the white people in Texas or all the white people in Maine? They're all on the same side. They all agree on everything. That's why we have one political party and everybody in it is white. Are you kidding me right now?
If you think back to the former Yugoslavia,
The former Yugoslavia. That's where the football kicking donkey came from, right? Gus? I'm remembering a very old Disney movie, live action. Didn't Gus the donkey come from Yugoslavia? Or did they have him come from like some made up country? I don't know. Okay, let's think about the former Yugoslavia. Is that where the car, the Yugo, came from? I assume so.
Serbs had enjoyed most of the positions in government and the military throughout the Cold War for decades.
Yeah, okay. And the population of Yugoslavia was made up of what, majority-wise? What? This is one of the instances where I can ask this question honestly. How much cultural and ethnic diversity existed in Yugoslavia prior to the Civil War? I mean, how many lines of thinking were there, culturally, ethnically, and otherwise, in Yugoslavia? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head, but that'd be my first question. Because if you're really going to divide people so cleanly down ideological lines, there probably has to be very few of them.
Decades.
Yes.
But they were the ones who stood to lose the most as Yugoslavia democratized. The Serbs started that war. Iraq Sunnis similarly enjoyed most of the key positions in the military and in government under Saddam Hussein.
Yeah. And what were the religious / ethnic populations in, general terms? How much of there was one versus the other? And how many were there of difference in that area?
But when the United States toppled Saddam Hussein, they also threw the Sunnis out of their positions. It was the Sunnis who started that war.
Yes, we kicked everybody out of government and we shut down their military, and a whole bunch of mightily trained militants with weapons just kind of went home without any future, any money, and everything else. Yeah, no, they started a whole bunch of other stuff, didn't they? Wait, which war did they start? When we toppled, do you mean the first time or the second time? Which one of you, maybe I got my history mixed up here.
In the United States, the rise of militias has been driven primarily by white men.
All right, I'm going to circle white supremacy on the board. You say primarily, so not exclusively. The rise of militias. The rise of militias. Boy, oh boy, I mean, maybe I'm disconnected. I haven't heard much of anything from the militia movement since maybe the late 90s. They kind of put a bad taste into people's mouths after Oklahoma City. Maybe that's just me. The militia movement really didn't do a lot for itself in PR after Oklahoma City.
Who see America's identity changing in ways that directly threatens their status.
And how did a good portion of the country view America after a certain person became president? Did they feel like their identity, that the country's identity was going to threaten their status? Okay, this is a constant. This is a constant, back and forth, every single time we have an election. But now, only now, we are on the precipice of a civil war due to these factors.
They were the ones who marched on the Capitol on January 6th.
Okay, you got anything other than January 6th to use as an example of political unrest or political violence? Because, again, there is a whole summer of 2020 that you are actively not even mentioning. Any ideas on that at all? All evil flows from one direction to the other. Are you sure about that? Okay. These pregnant pauses are not evidence of anything. They don't prove your point at all. Okay, we're halfway through this sucker, and I'm waiting for a compelling argument.
So why is this happening now?
Because you tell us it is. Only now. Only now. The Satsu Doctrine in action. Only now. Why is this happening now? Well, let's see. I'm going to guess it's because of... Well, I mean, you've already kind of told us, right? You've already kind of told us. I'm going to guess it's, and I'm just guessing here, it's something to the effect of the population of the United States is changing. And it's changing in such a way that rabidly racist people are so threatened by these changes that they are now gearing up in order to oppose anyone or anything that would try to change the landscape, particularly on the basis of skin color. And that's why it is. Really evil people, really racist, xenophobic people are scared. Right? And only now that's happening. That's not a through line that's been taking place for decades upon decades in this country in some way, shape, or form, depending on what side of the aisle you're sitting on. But only now that's happening. And to such a degree that it threatens the stability of the entire country.
It's happening now because of demographic change.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yes! I am a genius! I am invincible! I guessed it! I get a point! I don't even know what do I have something here? How about, how about a classic? Oh, man, that was great! That was great! Oh, boy, have I been doing this a while or what? Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, well, I'm also going to circle diversity, equity, and inclusion because that's at least implied here. Oh, man, that was great. Perfect timing. Oh, perfect timing. Thank you, Derek LaRue, so much again. Let me get this up yeah, there you go, StreamYard. Thank you so much. A point for Scribe. Yay, a point for me. Thank you, Derek. Thank you so much. It's very... Excuse me. The Pepper Jack just decided to say hello. Thank you, Derek. And Devil Fruit Zero, thank you so much. I wish you had an F this bitch bingo square. Yeah, well, unfortunately, I try to keep it civil here. Not civil war, mind you, but civil all the same. Okay, so, okay, that could have gone better if I planned it, and I didn't, so let's go.
The United States is in the midst of a major transition from a country whose population is majority white to a country whose population will be majority non-white.
Oh my gosh.
The United States will be the first country to go through this, but others are going to follow.
We're the first country to go through demographic change? What? Wait. We're the first country to go through a change of demographics from a majority not being a majority anymore? Okay. Again, English major here, not a history major, but the odds of that being true, I would say, is zilch. But I'm happy to be corrected.
Canada is likely to be next.
Oh, Canada, we're coming for you, Canada. Look out. Look out. I swear, those Quebecers, they're going to run off and start their own thing at some point. At some point. The Francophones are coming.
followed by New Zealand, and then the UK, and eventually all the English-speaking countries of the world.
Oh my gosh, you almost sound excited about this. Okay, so the United States, Canada, England, the UK, New Zealand, all these countries are on their way to civil war? Wow. Okay, guys, I think all of those are a little bit democratic, right? Wow, boy, the bar for entry to civil war is pretty low these days, isn't it?
This is likely to be especially true if climate change causes citizens from the global south to increasingly move north.
Oh, God. Everything. Oh, my gosh. This is kit and caboodle. Is the kitchen sink in here, too? Man, a lot. Demographic shift, climate change, January 6th. What are we missing? Oh, boy. I don't know. What else are we missing? I don't know. The Hollywood strikes or representation in media, women in film. Anything else you'd like to add?
These countries are going to be looking to the United States to see how we manage this demographic shift.
How do we manage this demographic shift? I don't know. How have we managed the demographic shift as it's taken place over the last 50 years? Because, you know, the demographics of this country today versus what they were 50 years ago are also very different. How have we handled it since then? Any ideas? Thank you, Ms. Tickle Trunk. I'd love to see her map with pins and red string. I feel like what I said at the top of the show still rings basically true. This is effectively the same kind of argument I heard on 90s AM talk radio. So, some of the same arguments, same rhetoric. You know, the times may change, but some of the fundamentals don't. And it sounds just as likely based on her argument as it did back then. And yet, here we are. I don't know. How would you suggest we handle this demographic shift?
Americans can allow this transition to tear us apart.
Why would it?
Or we could use it to come together to show the world how to manage this change.
Manage this change. Okay, well, again, and you've got a couple of minutes, maybe you'll do so. What do you suggest be done to manage this change in the appropriate manner?
And in the process, create a truly multi-ethnic, multi-religious democracy.
We are not currently a multi-ethnic, multi-religious representative republic? You mean? A truly multi-ethnic, because right now there are no multiple ethnicities. In fact, right now there aren't even multiple ethnicities amongst white people. No, it's just one giant block that all agree on everything, which is why Joe Biden and Donald Trump are on the exact same page together, obviously. Now, that's why California and Florida are operating on the exact same page right now, because all white people agree on the same things. And, you know, there's no difference between a Polak and an Irishman. No. It's just, they're exactly the same. Exactly the same. Hey, caramba.
So how do you do this?
I don't know. I'm dying to know. How do you do this? How do you manage this demographic change in this mystical land where multiple ethnicities and religions coexist? I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of I don't know, overarching document. I feel like there's this idea of a set of laws, a set of fundamental rights that in part were both fought over and further defined by our last Civil War. But, maybe I must be living in a fantasy world. Such things just obviously don't exist. Obviously not. A misclick, but all the same, Derek LaRue says she is loud and buys her clothes at Bed Bath & Beyond. Circle all the squares. Yeah, I should probably do something here pretty quick. Thank you, Gunfox61. Scribe, I remember Paul Harvey, and I want to have Dan Cringshaw talking about politics like this. Paul Harvey. I mean, is it Crenshaw? I remember Paul Harvey. I don't know if I know Dan Crenshaw. Are you talking about the eye patch guy? I know that's being a bit reductive, but all the same. Yeah, Paul Harvey. This is Paul Harvey. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I think if not for something she's just said, then for things in general.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
I think that's worthwhile. I think that's fair.
The first thing we have to do is address the two big risk factors of civil war.
The two big risk factors. Okay, the two big risk factors were we're a nonocracy, whatever you call it, okay? And we're also have political parties based around identity. Okay, now in the second instance, at least, I would agree in principle. It would be nice if there was more philosophy and not simple identity driving our political parties and political machinations these days. But you're really going to have to go talk to the heads of the political parties about that because they thrive on it. They depend on it. And it's really difficult to get away from when you're trying to pander to or recruit from the common man, as it were.
Anocracy and identity politics.
Okay, again, you got me halfway. I want to hear your theory on how to address the identity politics things, because that is a problem in and of itself. Not necessarily heading towards a civil war, but certainly civil discontent and unrest.
To address anocracy, we have to improve the rule of law. We have to ensure equal access to every citizen to the vote.
Okay, show me where that is not the case. Actually, provably not the case. And I will be right there with you.
We have to reduce corruption and we have to improve the quality of government services.
Fundamentally, I agree. But here's the thing. That did not begin, nor has it ended, with the Trump administration. But in principle, I am in agreement with you.
But reforming a government takes time. Those are not easy things to do.
You're right. It would also require that both sides of the aisle were on board with this. But unfortunately, neither side will want to admit to its own corruption. It's always the other guy. It's always the other guy. So I would love to know, and I mean this sincerely. I'm not joking when I say this. I would love to know if she has a plan to bring the parties together in such a way as they would actually examine, audit, and reform the laws necessary to achieve that end. Does she have a plan for this? Does she have a magic potion? I wish there was one. I'd be surprised if she's got it.
And it often seems impossible. That's exactly where the United States is today.
Okay, and your plan would be to?
Almost paralyzed. This is where business can come in.
Whoa! Wait a second. No, wait. Okay. And this is not me being so naive as to think that corporations are not already running large swaths of our political process anyway. But you want to hand more power to corporations? Oh, I can't wait to hear this one. Okay.
30 years ago, most of us thought that South Africa was barreling towards civil war.
If you say so, sure. 30 years ago? Okay.
Black South Africans were increasingly protesting the brutality of the white apartheid regime.
30 years ago? Okay, yeah, I guess it was 30 years ago. All right, yeah, okay.
And the government responded with more brutality.
Uh-huh.
But then something happened.
What happened?
The business community stepped in and demanded real democracy.
Yes, that was a thing. International businesses started ceasing to do business with any entities that either supported or funded or otherwise helped the South African regime. You're right. They starved the beast. They starved the beast and forced them to the table. Okay. So then what are you proposing businesses do in the U.S. then by comparison?
They did this because they had been suffering under years of crushing economic sanctions. And eventually they had to choose between apartheid and profits, and they chose profits.
Oh, yay. Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
And when they went to the government and said, we will no longer support you, the apartheid regime knew it could not survive, and reform happened quickly.
Okay, so you are asking the business interests in this country to, what, just stop funding political parties all around, right? Just in general?
The business community can also help address identity politics.
Whoa. Okay, so you're just going to use the example of South Africa, leave that hanging in the air, but not describe what you would have done now in America through the business, quote unquote, community. All right, so the implication is you want the business community to stop funding the United States government? I mean, don't get me wrong, if we could get corporate bribery and promised jobs and careers after public service and all that stuff out of the way, I'd be a happy guy. If that's what you're talking about, if you're talking about refusing or having some kind of like non-compete clause amongst all corporations not to employ any politician who happened to dabble in legislation or something that benefited them directly in their time in office or something, you know, something like that, like there's a 10-year freeze or something, I'd be all for it. It would have to be across the board, though. It would have to affect everybody fairly, not just be directed at one political party or another. And certainly this talk has at least intimated that our speaker thinks the problems in this country originate from one direction and one direction only.
The business community can also help address identity politics by investing in those communities that have been left behind by globalization and by free trade agreements like NAFTA. In the United States, it was the working class.
Investing in those communities left behind. Okay.
That disproportionately suffered. Those are the communities that are the most angry and the most resentful today.
Well, what if those communities are made up primarily of white people? What would you do then? I mean, you're just empowering more white people. Why would you want to do that?
Businesses can invest in better health care.
They can.
Better education.
They can.
And a higher minimum wage.
You want to take a look at the experiments in jacking up the minimum wage across the country in the last few years? The results might surprise you.
So that they create a group of people who are hopeful about the future and less vulnerable to the calls by extremists to burn the system down.
Extremists who burn the system down. You know where I heard that more so than anything else from 2016 and forward? It was from the social justice warriors. It was from Black Lives Matter. And do you know what kind of philosophies the corporations and the business community are operating under right now? Maybe you don't know about a thing called DEI or ESG or a whole bunch of other things that are going to run roughshod over your utopian ideals here. Oh, Mike R. points out systemic. Yes. You are correct. You are correct, sir. Circling systemic. And just as a reminder, I will be going over the bingo card one more time at the end to review and refresh what we have said or otherwise intimated by our speaker. Thank you, Assassin of the Gray. Excuse me. She has yet to explain how whites becoming minorities in their own countries in the West is a good thing. A good thing, a bad thing, an immediate disaster? I don't know. I need an example. I would need a historical, active example of what she's talking about and how the conditions for civil war are just on the precipice in a handful of the most democratized countries in the world. And this is not me saying that the United States is perfect. This is not me saying that any country is perfect. But again, I have been hearing the Civil War drumbeat and shouts and paranoia from both sides of the aisle for years. And so far, I have not heard a compelling argument from our speaker that the states of the United States are about to secede from one another on social unrest. Yes, certainly. We have it. We've seen it. We saw it in the summer of 2020, a period of time that our speaker is just magically ignoring. But yes, these things are probably more likely and much more divided in identitarian politics of today than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. But civil war? Why are you grinning? I'm sorry. I pointed this out in previous streams about different things. Somebody's talking about something that, at least theoretically and imaginatively, is terrible and awful and destructive and dystopian. And she's rubbing her, for those of you listening at home, she is rubbing her hands together and grinning like an idiot.
But there's perhaps an easier solution, at least in the short term.
Oh boy. Is it the lingerie bowl? Tell me it's the lingerie. No. Robot jocks. Robot jocks. We just have two giant robots representing both sides of an argument. They fight it out on proxy of both sides, and whoever wins, the argument's settled. Oh, please tell me robot jocks. Achilles!
Just in the short term.
In the short term, okay.
And that is to regulate social media.
Okay, so let me get this straight. What your first and primary warning sign for a civil war is nonocracy. We're a little bit of democracy, but as otherwise, and your solution in the short term is to curb the freedom of speech. Okay, contradicts own point or argument, circling that one. Let's see. Benevolent condescension, circling that one. Let's see. Leaves out vital context because she didn't tell us anything about how the South African model was supposed to work as far as starving the beast. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna save it there for now. All right. Okay, yep, tell us true.
Especially the algorithms that push out the most incendiary and divisive material.
Oh, and who gets to decide what qualifies? Who shall be the arbiter? And don't get me wrong, Twitter is doing this right. Sorry, X is doing this right now, right? Most of the major social media companies either already have been or are doing so at rapid pace. This is happening. So her wish is coming true. But that's beside the point. The principle of the thing is absolutely ludicrous. She's talking about the decline of democracy, but she wants regulated speech. Okay. Are you going to mention explicitly those platforms that you don't like?
I'm not saying that we should censor free speech.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, well then tell me true. What do you mean by regulating social media? Holy cats. I'm not saying, okay, well then what are you saying?
Let people put whatever they want on social media. But do not allow the algorithms to amplify the messages by bullies and hate mongers and conspiracy theorists and enemies of democracy.
You mean like you? Yeah, I'm not saying to tramp down on free speech. I'm just saying suppress people's ability to express themselves, even when they say things you don't like to hear. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, guys. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. So she's okay with the other political party being in charge of social media when her side inevitably gets voted out? Exactly. What's good for the goose will be good for the gander. You set the standards, you set the laws, you set up the committees. Just wait until there's a shift in demographics in that one, the political kind. Then what happens? How much power over people's ability to express themselves do you want to put in the hands of either government or business?
If we take away their bullhorn,
who is they, and how do you determine who a bad actor is? Who is that arbiter? You? Well, you're not even willing to acknowledge political violence coming from a direction that you seemingly only agree with. So would you be the person to make that decision? Would the committee of the CIA be the people to make that decision? Come on.
their influence will decline.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. You know what? You want to set up the conditions for further violence. You want to set up the conditions for civil unrest. Take away someone's ability to express themselves. Take away everyone else's ability to respond to those expressions of themselves, good, bad, or ill. If you want to destroy public discourse and to destroy the open marketplace of ideas that can be put before everybody and either upped or downed on the basis of their merits, yeah, you will immediately increase the likelihood of unrest. You will not decrease it. Okay, as they say, light is the best disinfectant. A bad idea will not stand up to scrutiny, but scrutiny can only occur when the bad idea is open to all to assess. You are on the wrong side of every history book right now. That's a phrase people like to use, right? The right side of history. Well, she is decidedly on the wrong side.
I've interviewed a lot of people who have lived through a civil war, and they all say the same thing.
Do they say anything that I shouldn't hear because it might be harmful to my senses? Maybe I should turn this off right now rather than listen to something that might upset me. I mean, I wouldn't want any bad ideas to even get near me, right? Because I obviously can't make up my own mind. I'm going to be mind controlled by an idea I might disagree with. I have no agency. I have no mental autonomy. I don't know. I'm just a blank slate. I guess we'll find out what she says next.
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming.
I didn't see it coming. I could put in an inappropriate joke there, but I won't. It's already in your minds. I don't have to do it. You guys have imagination enough to do it for me.
Brina Kovac was a young mother living in Sarajevo at the beginning of the Bosnian Civil War.
Okay.
She told me that in the months and weeks leading up to that war, life seemed normal. She went to work. She took weekend holidays with her husband. They went to the weddings of their friends. But then one night in March of 1992, when she was at home with her newborn son, the lights suddenly went out.
Wow. Okay. And
then she said, you started to hear machine guns.
oh my gosh. And I suppose that the conditions, both political and social, in that country up to that point were absolute paradise, that these subjects had never been discussed before, that the possibility of this had never been brought up before, right? Well, it's just all of a sudden. So this one lady doesn't see it coming. So, and for those historians in the audience, if you are there, was the Serbian War just nobody saw it coming?
It doesn't have to be this way.
I'm not sure that you've shown it is this way.
We know an enormous amount about why these terrible wars start.
Yeah, and do you think suppressing speech is going to help that cause by any chance?
We know that the people intent on violence have a playbook. We know what that playbook is.
Is it rules for radicals by any chance?
But there's no reason why we, the democracy-loving people of this world, can't create our own playbook to prevent civil war.
Okay, and your playbook includes the suppression of free speech and corporate intermingling in governmental process, or more so. This is your plan. What is it again when corporations align with government interests? I forget. What is that called again? Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. When speech is impossible, violence is inevitable. Yes. Was that Martin Luther King Jr.? Am I misattributing that quote? Or maybe I'm properly attributing it, but the person saying it was taking it from somewhere else. I don't know. I don't know.
But to do that,
yes,
we have to be brave enough.
Brave and stunning, also stunning.
To fight for real democracy.
Fight for real democracy, where speech is oppressed and corporations dictate the rules. Right.
Strong democracy.
Strong democracy, where corporations tell the government how to operate and who's the government that will be selected and funded, and speech is suppressed against those deemed undesirable. Right.
Because only by fighting for democracy can we ensure that we will truly get peace. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I don't believe you. I don't trust you. And I think your ideas are inherently destructive. And either you are completely aware of it, and you're an agent of destruction, or you're not aware of it, and you have absolutely no sense of history or what you're telling people to do. Just none at all. None at all. Thank you, Mr. Trunk. JFK originated that quote. Lots of versions since. Okay. I got, at least I got my era right? I got the general era. Okay, anyway, let's move on. I think I've said more than enough, and certainly our speaker has. I'm going to move on to the bingo card. Let's see where we're at and where we will go. Is that, I can zoom in one time on that and not destroy nothing. Okay, here's the bingo card as I have it. I'm going to go, wait, I actually got to update that. There we go, because there was a second WTF. All right, so one more time, and then I will ask you guys for your input. Collectivizes own demographic. White people. Just white people. There's no ethnic diversity, just white people. That's all there is, as we know. Sales pitch for product or service. I can't call what she put out there a product or a service, unfortunately, so it doesn't quite count. Childhood or family? And she never talked about her childhood. She never talked about her family. Plays victim. No, or at least not that I can think of. Microaggressions or unconscious bias. I would be stretching if I were to circle that one, I think. Privilege. Yes, because she talked about how those with historically political power start losing that power, etc. She was, based on her other comments thereafter, alluding to white privilege, at least, at the very least. England, DG, thank you so much. Historians, the Nazi rise to power. It's clear no one talks about the female vote, who elected the Nazis overwhelmingly, or the communist opposition for agitating reform into power, but losing their communist ideas. Yes. Yeah. There is no history before 2016. The Satsu doctrine is true. Our speaker is operating on the basis of no information, no examples from history, no warning signs from previous administrations of any other country on the planet that have existed from now or until back into the day. None at all. Yeah. Get businesses involved in governmental process and suppress free speech. These things are obviously the panacea to everything that ills us. Thank you, Dingland DG. Appreciate it. Let's see. Where was I? Migration. Okay. Patriarchy. Yes. The militia groups are overwhelmingly run by white males, as she said. Weightless example. Boy, I'm sure there's a really clear-cut one in there, but I'm kind of overwhelmed at this point. Someone will have to help me out on that one. Wage gap. I will say she did talk about, and this is why wage gap needs to be revised in some way on the board, but she did talk about economic disparities and the minimum wage and businesses helping out the working class and so on. So for the sake of argument, I'll cover wage gap there. Feminism. She didn't bring up anything overtly feminist that I can think of. Marginalization. Well, she was certainly, she talked about underrepresented groups, and if not as an argument in her favor, let's say, she was definitely promoting marginalizing people on the basis of their opinions. So, England DG, again, thank you so much. I want to be clear. I don't care if women vote, but it is not in any way a dispute that women mostly sided with the Nazi party in that election. They love a man in uniform? I don't know. I'll take your word for it. I'm not a historian, but I'll accept your assessment of things. I assume it's true. Why? Who knows? But thank you, England. Appreciate it. Let's see. Word salad. I'm actually hesitant to say word salad because I understood everything that she said. I even predicted part of it. It's just that everything that she said was ridiculous, just on a factual basis or on a rational basis. Does that count as word salad? I might need an argument for that one. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No, she was very proud of herself. Throughout the entire thing, she was grinning like it was Christmas Day. She was a happy camper. Argumentative non sequitur. Brings it up and never talks about it again. Yeah, I hate to double dip, but it's still bugging me. She brings up the South African apartheid versus business situation, and then she doesn't tell us how that's supposed to translate into the American economy or political process. Just brings it up, doesn't follow it to its logical, I would assume, conclusion. And consequently.
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
So there you go. Our first bingo. Attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new. The terms and words that she used were established long before she was around, so no. Mind reading assumes motives. Yes, she knows what's going to happen. Specifically, a civil war. She knows the minds of particular people based on their demographic split. She knows the future. She knew that January 6th was coming, but nothing that preceded that, of course. Of course. Actually, no, I don't have that here. I need to put an of course on here. I should probably get like a chink of course on here. Maybe. I don't know. Lastly, anecdote that probably never happened. The only anecdote she really gave us, aside from name dropping all the wars and places that she'd been, was that last story about the lady in Serbia who didn't see it coming. And I don't have any reason to think that that's a false story or too good to be true. I mean, one person's anecdotal observation of events prior to a conflict, I can imagine there's lots of people who didn't see it coming. If they weren't paying attention to the political climate or current events or anything else that had occurred in that country up to that point, sure, you keep your head down, you don't look at nothing, you'll be surprised by a lot of things. So I can believe that that anecdote was a thing that happened. So there we go, guys. That's the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, get them ready now. I'll get to you in just a second. Thank you again, England. Holy cats. This is very generous of you. I have done the analysis of it. Not my studies, just stuff, or Juster stuff. Okay, women elected Hitler. They did it because he promised them various things: good employment for their husbands, very good social benefits to just raise children. I can believe it. I can believe it. I mean, I'm a soft sell from a historically informed perspective. So you don't need to defend yourself. You're fine. I really appreciate the donations. Thank you so much. You know, have you talked to Ranting Monkey recently? Because he's all about rolling back women's right to vote. You know, I'm not saying that women shouldn't be able to vote, just that Ranting Monkey thinks so. Anyway, arguments for squares to be circled. Sass into the gray. That look of hers, I can't believe these fucking words are falling for these lies. That morbid grin is Duper's delight. That, you know, I did feel like that. I did feel like that because, yeah, when you're talking about something grim and you start grinning, like, you're enjoying this? Why? I can't, it's hard for me to take somebody seriously when they're talking about dire gloom and doom oncoming and they're really happy about it. Really happy about it. Let's see. Advocates Diablo Scarlet. Many of her examples, Iraq, Hamas, etc., were so completely different from what she described in the U.S. as to be weightless. Well, you see, here's the thing. Was she comparing the U.S. to those countries specifically? The only time that I heard her actually try to compare it or attempt to was South Africa. She mentioned those countries as places she had been and witnessed civil wars. So were they? And here's the only, and I'm fine with a counter argument. I would say that she brought up those instances and those examples because she had been there, she had witnessed them, and consequently, they were a part of her establishing her bona fides on the subject and what qualified her for being on that committee. That's my pushback on that. I'm happy to have a counter argument, but that's where I went. Let's see. A guy in his room. I think Scribe has noticed that strange grin in many of these far left DEI people. It to me is kind of like, aren't I great talking about this? Well, yes. Duper's delight, a phrase that isn't heard very often. I first heard it during a body language analysis video about Chris Watts, the family annihilator. But yes, I have noticed in several other things, TEDx talks and others, that, when I see someone looking very happy when they're delivering terribly, objectively terrible news, I get suspicious. Let's just say it's a red flag. It's a red flag. Thank you, Keldrig. I don't have anything to say. I just wanted to give you money. Well, you're my favorite kind of person, Keldrig. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You guys know I'm kidding. Thank you, Keldrig, very much. Appreciate it. Really do. Thank you. And I'm flattered, as always. Grand Inquisitor, weightless example, South Africa. She is blamely ignoring what is happening to white South Africans who aren't in power. Oh, you mean today? Today specifically? Oh, okay. Yeah, this was a recent talk. This was April 2023, so it wasn't like it happened many, many years ago or something. Or is that a contradicts own pointer argument? Is that a contradicts own pointer argument? I'm not meaning to push back just to push back. I just, if you have a refinement or somebody else wants to back up Tier Alexander, let me know. Let's see. Advocatus. Okay, she directly compared Iraq to the U.S., but there is no similarity. What happened because of a vacuum we created? Okay. Yeah, and also you're right, and both Tier for one thing, but Advocatus for the other. She described countries that had very strongly delineated populations, plus the fact that Iraq was a theocracy. So, yeah, to compare those two things and to completely ignore all the mechanisms of the system of government of this country, as imperfect as they are, we're not being run by a theocracy, and there is not a religious majority taking over everything, as far as I know. I read the book The Family way back when. It was fairly compelling. I've seen the documentary too. So yes, all right, I will give you weightless example on that score. So let me circle that there. All right, so thank you both Tier Alexander and Advocatus. Poker Pierce, late. Can I get a recap on why we're going to war? Because Trump. And Trump. That's why. That was it. Jose Chacon, it contradicted her point, thinking that whites in power create injustice and oppression, but with South Africa is the opposite. That is true. That is also true. Simply having one demographic become the minority versus the majority does not then mean all ills are cured and all wrongs are healed. It's nonsense. Never been true in history, isn't a rule. For the first time, a country will be doing this. That didn't make any sense when she said it. Doesn't make any sense now. All right. Any other arguments for squares, guys? Let's see. Super Koopa, ascribed like this one escalated really quickly. I feel she just barely justified a civil war and just went straight into her own bias. The one thing she did effectively illustrate, okay, I will say this. The one thing she did effectively illustrate are the elements to cause civil unrest and further political and social division. An actual civil war? No. State versus state secession, as we know. And that's why I asked at the top, what is her definition of civil war? She made a good case for civil unrest, right? She made a good case for political divisions and a lot of divisiveness amongst people. But her solutions were no solutions to that. Suppressing speech and handing over control of the political process to corporations. I really wish you'd taken more time to expand on what you thought corporations should be doing in America, more so than they are already doing, to cure us of the risks of civil war. But she didn't. So there you go. A couple more minutes here, guys, and I'm going to wrap things up. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Faithless has a suggestion for the square on wage gap. Any mention of income disparity? Any mention of income disparity? Okay, so, I mean, it's kind of a 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other. Yeah, I mean, wage, I have effectively turned it into that, haven't I? Because the literal wage gap, which is actually an earnings gap between the genders in America, doesn't really get brought up specifically anymore. It was brought up quite a bit in the early days, not so much anymore. But simply saying income disparity, well, for lack of a better phrase, because I can't think of a better one right now, kind of shifting deck chairs on the Titanic. It's kind of the same thing. And if people are good with that, sort of clearing it up, so they're not always waiting for literally the wage gap to be quoted, then maybe that makes more sense. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Let's see. Mess says the Yugoslavia conflict dates back to the 1400s. Only blind people didn't see it. The what hundreds? You must mean 2016. I mean, when I think back to it's the Satsu doctrine. Come on now. Advocates Diablo, Scribelight, she pitched social media censorship even though she denied. Yeah. It contradicts own point or argument. A whole bunch of other things on here. It just, you're talking about sales pitch? Oh, a sales pitch for social media moderation. Oh, ooh. I mean, that does become a product and a service, doesn't it? Ooh, Ebony Williams. I'm sorry. I do mind you, not in the sense of like being annoyed or something, but I'm not going to let you hide. I will not let you stay there, unknown to others, unnoticed. You deserve some attention. Everybody, say hi to Ebony in the chat. She deserves some attention. Yeah, you know what? Given how fervently and hypocritically she pitched it, I'll give that to you. All right. Let's see. Any other arguments, guys? All right. Well, I'll leave it there for the moment. A couple of programming notes. I do actually have another episode of Living on Borrowed Crime possibly coming up. Here's the deal. Because of certain circumstances, I'll be recording an interview, with a true crime content creator in the near future. How that turns out, on the basis of the discretion of my interviewee, only then will I be comfortable or be given permission to turn it into an episode for broadcast. There's nothing nefarious going on. I can't talk about it. It's perfectly fine. Trust me, it's all above board. It's just the circumstances involved. So, but I'll be recording that next week. And if everything lines up and it passes muster, then it will become a premiere in the near future. I will let you guys know more about that as things go on, but that is coming up in one way, shape, or form. Keeverdam, my AirPods died almost an hour ago, so I've been struggling to listen to this. I'll replay it later. Well, it was a doozy. It was a doozy, Keeverdam. I wasn't necessarily as historic as a blackout of the bingo card or something, but I think just on number of effectively WTF moments, it was up there. I think so. Let's see, what else? Anything else? Oh, yes, Sunday, the Sunday stream at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where I'll talk about a thing. I can't say what the thing is. I haven't decided yet. And then, of course, later on Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern will be the next episode of, I guess, effectively the second season already of Book Review of the Vampire, as my friend Leonora and I start in on the Vampire Lestat. We are reading, for those of you following along at home, fortunately, this book is split up into very distinct sections. So we are reading the introduction and the first section, which is titled something to the effect of The Adventures of Lestat, or something like that. So if you happen to have the book handy and you want to read along with us, we're reading all the way through that first section of the book. And that'll be where we're at on Sunday night. Let's see. Advocast Diabli, Scribe Light, can we recircle? Leaves out vital content. So she never told us in which civil wars she started with that CIA. For personal security reasons, I'm not going to badmouth the CIA. I would never do that. Oh, yes, Discord. I did remember to do that. Also, everyone, if you happen to want to join the Discord server, there is a link in the chat right now. All you have to do is click on that. You'll find yourself on the landing channel of the Discord server for the Scribe Light channel. It's called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, all you have to do is say the secret word, because without the secret word, neither I or my moderators know that you actually watched the show. And today's secret word is group. My favorite word that isn't demographic, group. So just say hello, group, and everyone will know that you watched the show. And then you too can become a member of the Discord server. But yes, Derek LaRue, it is a secret group. All right, everybody. I want to thank you for joining me on this adventure into future politics and discord in our country. or my country. You may be in other countries, but don't worry. If you're in a democratic country of one sort or another, this is the future you have to look forward to. So get ready. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself, holy cats, and to anybody in the fundraisers at the top of the chat box, thank you so much. As well, if you've shared those fundraisers out on social media, you know, that social media that needs to be regulated, that is also very much appreciated. Everyone, I hope that you are all having a great Thursday. I hope you're all cool if you're hot, and hot if you're cool. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.